The twin sons of Kepler 442b painted the endless wheat fields in shades of gold and amber as Jake Thompson walked through his crops on what would become the last peaceful morning of his life. His weathered hands brushed against the grain stalks that swayed gently in the artificial breeze created by the colony's atmospheric processors. New Haven had been his home for 15 years, ever since he arrived with the third wave of settlers. What started as barren rock had transformed into humanity's greatest agricultural success story. Jake paused to check his tablet, smiling at the harvest projections. These fields would feed millions across 3 different star systems. His daughter Emma was supposed to help him today, but she had school. At 12 years old, she was more interested in the colony's new quantum physics program than farming. Jake didn't mind. He wanted her to reach for the stars, not spend her life bent over crops like her old man. In the distance, Haven City sparkled like a jewel against the alien landscape. Its glass towers housed 50,000 humans who had made this world their own. Markets bustled with activity as merchants sold goods from Earth alongside exotic fruits that grew only in New Haven's unique soil. Children rode hover bikes through parks filled with earth trees that had adapted beautifully to the alien environment. Commander Lisa Carter sat in the colony's defense center, reviewing the morning patrol reports with little interest. The most exciting event in months had been a meteor shower that lit up the night sky. New Haven existed in a peaceful sector of space, far from any major trade routes or territorial disputes. The Zephyrian Empire controlled several nearby systems, but they had always been distant neighbors. Their reptilian diplomats occasionally visited for trade negotiations, always polite and professional. The defense center's AI assistant chimed softly. "Commander, we have multiple contacts entering the system." Lisa looked up from her coffee. "Identification: Zephyrian vessels. Configuration suggests a diplomatic convoy." Lisa nodded absently. "Another trade delegation, probably here to negotiate grain shipments." The Zephyrians loved human wheat for some reason. She watched a tactical display as 7 large ships moved steadily toward New Haven. Something felt different about their approach pattern, but she couldn't identify what bothered her. Jake was examining a section of crops affected by a minor blight when his tablet erupted in emergency alerts. He looked up to see streaks of light descending from the sky, like falling stars. For a moment, he thought it was beautiful. Then the first plasma bolts struck Haven City. The explosions were visible from 30 kilometers away. Brilliant flashes of white light bloomed where buildings had stood moments before. Jake's tablet crackled with panicked voices as the colony's communication network struggled to handle the flood of emergency transmissions. "Mayday, Mayday. This is New Haven Colony." Commander Carter's voice cut through the chaos. "We are under attack by Zephyrian forces. They're targeting civilian centers. Repeat, we are under unprovoked attack." Jake ran toward his hover truck, his mind focused on one thing. Emma was in school. Haven City Primary was in the middle of the downtown district, directly under the bombardment. The truck's engine roared to life as he pushed it to maximum speed, racing across the plains toward the burning city. The orbital bombardment continued for 2 hours. Plasma beams lanced down from orbit with surgical precision, turning the colony's infrastructure into molten metal and glass. The spaceport vanished in a ball of superheated gas. The agricultural processing centers that fed 3 star systems became smoking craters. Worst of all, the residential districts burned like torches against the alien sky. When the bombardment finally stopped, Zephyrian landing craft descended like metal insects. Their troops emerged wearing environmental suits and carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. These weren't the polite diplomats who had visited for trade talks. These soldiers moved with the efficiency of an army that had done this before. Jake reached the outskirts of Haven City as the first Zephyrian troops began their sweep. The school was somehow still standing, its reinforced structure having survived. the initial bombardment. He found Emma huddled in a basement with 30 other children and 2 teachers. The adults were trying to keep the kids calm, but terror filled every young face. "Daddy." Emma threw her arms around him, tears streaming down her cheeks. The Zephyrian ground forces moved through the colony with methodical precision. They weren't interested in prisoners or resources. They wanted every human dead. Families were dragged from hiding places and executed in the streets. The few colonists who tried to fight back were overwhelmed by superior numbers and technology. Jake barricaded the school's main entrance with furniture and anything else he could find. Other parents had arrived, turning the building into a fortress. They had hunting rifles and maintenance tools, pathetic weapons against alien soldiers, but they would not abandon their children. The attack came at sunset. Zephyrian troops surrounded the school and began cutting through the barricades with energy weapons. Jake stood with 15 other parents in the main hallway, knowing they were about to die, but determined to protect their kids for as long as possible. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, Jake Thompson lay still on the school floor, his daughter's picture clutched in his hands. By the 3rd day, New Haven was silent. The Zephyrians departed, leaving behind only a message, beacon that broadcast endlessly into space. This is the price of human expansion into sacred space. The quantum relay station, orbiting Neptune, hummed with activity as technicians worked around the clock to decode the final transmissions from New Haven. Sarah Mitchell had been monitoring deep space communications for 12 years, but she had never seen data packets like these. The quantum entanglement arrays were designed to carry messages across vast distances instantly, but what arrived from the Kepler system was fragmented and corrupted by interference. "Run it again," Sarah told her assistant. "Clean up the audio as much as possible." The holographic display flickered to life, showing grainy footage from New Haven's security cameras. At first, Sarah thought she was watching a training simulation. The images showed plasma fire raining from the sky, buildings collapsing into molten ruins. Then she heard the voices of real people screaming for help, and her blood turned cold. President Maria Rodriguez was reviewing agricultural reports in the Oval Office when her aide burst through the door without knocking. The young man's face was pale, his hands shaking as he held a data tablet. "Madam President, you need to see this immediately. It's from New Haven." Maria's heart sank. New Haven was supposed to report their quarterly harvest numbers today, but the colony had been silent for 3 weeks. She had assumed it was another communication equipment failure, common in the outer colonies. The tablet's screen showed a priority message marked with the highest security classification. 20 minutes later, Maria stood before the emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from every nation on Earth filled the massive chamber, their faces reflecting confusion and concern. No one knew why they had been called together so urgently. Maria's hands trembled as she activated the main display screen. 3 weeks ago, we lost contact with New Haven Colony. We assumed it was a technical problem. We were wrong. The footage began playing on screens throughout the chamber. Representatives watched in growing horror as the security cameras captured the final hours of New Haven. Children ran through burning streets, calling for parents who would never answer. Families huddled in basements as plasma fire melted the buildings above them. The audio picked up desperate radio transmissions from colonists begging for help that would never come. 50,000 of our people, Maria whispered, her voice breaking, as tears rolled down her cheeks. 50,000 souls murdered in cold blood, while we sat here debating trade agreements. The assembly erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted in outrage, some demanding immediate military action, while others called for diplomatic solutions. The footage continued playing, showing Zephyrian soldiers methodically hunting down survivors. The final transmission was from Commander Lisa Carter, her voice calm despite the hell surrounding her. "This is New Haven Colony, making our final report. The Zephyrians have committed genocide against our people. Tell Earth that we died trying to protect our children. Tell them to remember us. Admiral Robert Hayes sat in the front row of the assembly, his weathered face carved from stone. He had served in Earth's military for 35 years, fighting pirates and protecting trade routes. He had seen combat, had watched good people die for bad reasons, but nothing had prepared him for this footage of systematic murder. The Admiral's wife Rebecca had been born on Mars colony. His son David commanded a patrol ship in the Outer Rim. His daughter Kate was planning to join the next wave of colonists heading to the frontier worlds. Every human in space was now a target. And Hayes knew that New Haven was just the beginning. As the assembly descended into angry debates, Hayes stood and walked to the podium. The chamber gradually fell silent as representatives recognized the man who had kept Earth's space lanes safe for decades. "Madam President," Hayes said, his voice carrying the authority of command, "I request full military authorization." Maria looked into his eyes and saw something that frightened her. Hayes was known for his calm demeanor and diplomatic approach to conflicts. The man standing before her now was different. His eyes burned, with a cold fury that seemed to freeze the air around him. "Admiral Hayes," Maria said slowly, "you have unlimited resources and complete authority. Show the galaxy what happens when humanity is pushed too far." The transformation began within hours. Across Earth, emergency broadcasts interrupted regular programming. Factory workers received new orders as production lines shifted from civilian goods to military hardware. The orbital shipyards above Earth buzzed with activity as construction crews worked around the clock. James Wilson had spent 15 years building cargo haulers at the Luna shipyards. His team could assemble a merchant vessel in 3 months, efficient ships designed to carry goods between star systems. When the new work orders arrived, James studied the blueprints with growing amazement. These weren't cargo ships. They were weapons platforms designed to carry enough firepower to level entire cities. "Boss," his assistant Mike asked, "are we really building warships?" James nodded grimly. "The biggest ones humanity has ever constructed. Get everyone on double shifts. The Admiral wants 200 ships ready in 6 months." Meanwhile, Dr. Amanda Foster worked in the secret laboratories beneath the Swiss Alps. Her team had been developing theoretical weapons for decades, projects that existed only on paper because no one believed they would ever be needed. The massacre at New Haven changed everything. Suddenly, her most destructive designs were being fast-tracked for production. The industrial might of 10 billion. Humans focused on a single goal. Every factory, every shipyard, every research facility contributed to the war effort. Humanity had been sleeping peacefully among the stars, content to farm distant worlds and trade with alien neighbors. New Haven's murder had awakened something primal and terrible. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth's children should never be underestimated. The Zephyrian High Council gathered in their crystal palace on the homeworld, their scaled faces showing satisfaction as they reviewed intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Chancellor Vextar spread his clawed hands over the holographic display showing human space. For 6 months, the mammals had remained completely silent about New Haven's destruction. "The lesson has been learned," Vextar announced to his fellow council members. "The humans understand their place now. No more expansion into our sacred territories." Intelligence Officer Zakrin nodded agreement. "Our spies report no military build-up, no fleet movements, no diplomatic protests. They appear to be in complete shock. Some human colonies have even reduced their defensive patrols." The council members hissed with pleasure. They had worried that destroying New Haven might provoke a wider conflict, but the humans had proven as weak as expected. The mammals were farmers and traders, not warriors. One decisive blow had been enough to break their spirit. They could not have been more wrong. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, Dr. Kevin Miller stared at equations that would have driven lesser minds to madness. The classified laboratory complex stretched for miles through solid granite, hidden from satellites and alien sensors. Project Starburst had consumed his life for the past 6 months, turning theoretical physics into instruments of cosmic destruction. Kevin had not slept more than 4 hours in any single night since New Haven's massacre. The images of burning children haunted his dreams, driving him to work with desperate intensity. His wife brought him meals that grew cold as he lost himself in calculations. His colleagues worried about his health, but Kevin felt fine. He felt purpose. The quantum resonance chamber hummed with barely contained energy. Inside the containment field, exotic matter danced in patterns that should not exist in normal space. Kevin had learned to manipulate the fundamental forces that powered stars, bending them to humanity's will. The device looked harmless, no larger than a briefcase, but it contained the power to kill suns. Run the final simulation, Kevin told his assistant, Dr. Rachel Adams. She had joined the project after losing her brother in the New Haven massacre. Like Kevin, she worked with the focused intensity of someone seeking justice. The holographic display showed a perfect replica of a main sequence star. Rachel activated the quantum cascade, and they watched as the stellar core began destabilizing. The carefully balanced nuclear fusion that had burned for billions of years suddenly became chaotic. Within the simulation, the star consumed itself. In 6 hours. It works, Rachel whispered. We can actually kill a star. Kevin nodded, feeling no satisfaction despite their breakthrough. This weapon would have terrified him 6 months ago. Now it felt like justice made manifest. The Zephyrians had murdered children. They would learn that some crimes demanded cosmic punishment. Admiral Hayes arrived for the final briefing, accompanied by President Rodriguez and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The underground laboratory felt like a tomb as they gathered around the quantum resonance chamber. Kevin explained the technical details with clinical precision, but everyone understood the simple truth. Humanity now possessed the power to destroy entire solar systems. One deployment will destabilize any main sequence star within 6 hours, Kevin reported. The cascade reaction is irreversible once initiated. Everything within the system will be consumed. President Rodriguez stared at the device with obvious horror. Kevin, are we sure about this? We're talking about genocide on an unimaginable scale. Kevin's eyes hardened. They committed genocide first, Madam President. 50,000 people, including children who had never harmed anyone. This device ensures they never do it again. Meanwhile, construction crews worked around the clock in hidden shipyards scattered throughout the solar system. The asteroid belt buzzed with activity as miners extracted raw materials for the war effort. Captain Amy Johnson watched from the observation deck of the Mars Orbital Facility as her ship took shape below. The dreadnought Retribution stretched for 2 kilometers, its hull bristling with weapons that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Human engineers had reverse-engineered every piece of alien technology they could acquire, then improved upon it with typical human creativity. The ship's quantum drives could bend space itself, allowing impossible maneuvers during combat. Amy had handpicked her crew from Earth's finest officers. Commander Tom Phillips would serve as her tactical officer, his brilliant mind perfect for coordinating the complex weapons systems. Lieutenant Sarah Chen commanded the engineering section, her team capable of performing miracles with damaged equipment. Each crew member had volunteered for what everyone knew was likely a suicide mission. Captain, Tom said as he joined her at the observation window, the final weapons tests are complete. All systems are operating beyond specifications. Amy nodded, watching welding sparks dance across the Retribution's hull. How many ships total? 512, ma'am. The largest fleet humanity has ever assembled. The ships gathered in the shadow of Mars, hidden from alien sensors by the planet's magnetic field. Each vessel carried weapons designed specifically for this mission. They had studied the New Haven footage obsessively, learning Zephyrian tactics and weaknesses. The aliens would face an enemy they had never encountered before, humans with nothing left to lose. As Amy reviewed the battle plans for the 1000th time, one thought consumed her mind. Emma Thompson had been 12 years old when she died in New Haven's school. The girl had wanted to study quantum physics, dreaming of exploring distant stars. Instead, she had burned alive while alien soldiers hunted her through burning hallways. New Haven's children would not die unavenged. The space around Zephyr Prime had been peaceful for centuries. Merchant vessels traveled between the 4 inhabited worlds, carrying goods and passengers in lazy orbits around the ancient star. Patrol ships maintained routine schedules, more concerned with directing traffic than watching for enemies. The Zephyrian Empire felt secure in their home system, protected by distance and their reputation for ruthless efficiency. That peaceful morning shattered when reality tore open at the system's edge. The human fleet materialized from hyperspace like a swarm of metallic locusts. 512 ships appeared simultaneously, their hulls gleaming with weapons that had never been seen before. The vessels moved in perfect formation, advancing toward the inner system with deadly purpose. Lieutenant Kexaval was monitoring deep space sensors from his patrol ship when the readings went insane. His instruments detected more ships than should exist in one place, all broadcasting human identification codes. For a moment, he thought his equipment was malfunctioning. Then he saw them with his own eyes. "Command Center, this is Patrol 7, Kexavel transmitted, his voice shaking. "We have massive human fleet entering the system. Repeat, hundreds of human warships approaching Zephyr Prime." The response from Planetary Command was immediate panic. General Verkesh had expected the humans to eventually send a diplomatic protest about New Haven, perhaps a small fleet to demonstrate their displeasure. What approached his homeworld was something entirely different. These ships moved with precision that spoke of months of planning and preparation. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display as his fleet advanced. The Zephyrian home system spread before them like a target waiting to be struck. For worlds, dozens of moons, space stations, and orbital habitats. Billions of lives that had existed peacefully while New Haven burned. Open communications on all frequencies. Hayes ordered his communication officer. The transmission reached every ship, every station, every inhabited world in the system. Hayes spoke with the calm authority of a man who had already made peace with what he was about to do. "Attention, Zephyrian Command. You murdered 50,000 human civilians at New Haven Colony. Men, women, and children who had never threatened your people. Today, you answer for that crime." The Zephyrian home fleet scrambled to respond. 300 warships that had never faced serious combat rushed to intercept the human force. Admiral Zarketh commanded the defense from his massive dreadnought, confident that superior numbers would carry the day. His intelligence reports suggested that humans were inexperienced fighters, farmers and merchants who had stumbled into space warfare. The reports were catastrophically outdated. Captain Amy Johnson watched from the bridge of the Retribution as the enemy fleet approached. Her tactical display showed Zephyrian ships moving in predictable patterns, using formations that had worked against other alien species. They had no idea what they were facing. "All ships, engage at will," Johnson commanded. The human fleet scattered like leaves in a hurricane, each ship moving independently while maintaining perfect coordination. The Zephyrians expected linear combat, ship-to-ship battles where superior firepower would decide the outcome. Instead, they faced vessels that seemed to dance through space itself. The Retribution dove toward a Zephyrian battle cruiser, its quantum drives bending space-time around the hull. To the alien crew, the human ship appeared to teleport from position to position, making targeting impossible. Johnson's weapons officer fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes that passed through the enemy's shields as if they did not exist. The Zephyrian ship vanished in a ball of superheated plasma. "Target destroyed," the weapons officer reported, moving to next contact. Throughout the system, The same scene repeated as human ships carved through enemy formations with surgical precision. The Zephyrians had studied human tactics from minor skirmishes and trade disputes, but they had never seen Earth's true military capabilities. Every weapon, every defensive system, every tactical doctrine had been developed in absolute secrecy. Admiral Sarkith watched his fleet disintegrate with growing horror. His ships could not hit targets that seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. Human weapons penetrated Zephyrian armor like it was paper. Worst of all, the enemy showed no interest in capturing prisoners or seizing territory. They were here to kill. While the space battle raged, a single human vessel approached Zephyr Prime's star. The science ship Prometheus was smaller than a destroyer, designed for research rather than combat. Dr. Kevin Miller stood in its laboratory, surrounded by equipment that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of stellar physics. The quantum cascade device had been loaded into a specialized probe, its exotic matter containment fields carefully calibrated for stellar deployment. Miller watched his instruments as the Prometheus entered the star's corona. Temperatures that would vaporize normal matter, held at bay by the ship's shields. Deployment depth achieved, his pilot reported. Ready for device release. Miller's hands moved across holographic controls with practiced precision. He had run this procedure 1,000 times in simulation, but never with a real star. The device separated from the probe and began its descent toward the stellar core, carried by gravitational fields that had pulled matter inward for billions of years. Quantum cascade initiated, Miller reported to Admiral Hayes. Stellar collapse will begin in 30 minutes. Throughout the system, the space battle reached its climax as the last Zephyrian ships fell to human weapons. Admiral Hayes stood among the wreckage of an empire's defenses, his fleet victorious, but taking no satisfaction from the slaughter. This was not conquest. This was judgment. Hayes activated the general communication system one final time, broadcasting on every frequency to ensure his words reached every survivor in the system. People of Zephyr Prime, you showed our colonists no mercy when you murdered them in their homes and schools. We will show your star none either. You have 30 minutes to make peace with whatever gods you worship. The star that had burned for 4 billion years began to die in ways that violated every law of stellar physics. Zephyr Prime's sun pulsed with unnatural light as exotic matter from Dr. Miller's device reached its core. The nuclear fusion that had sustained life across 4 worlds became chaotic, consuming fuel at impossible rates. General Marcus Stone commanded the evacuation fleet from his transport ship, watching the stellar readings with grim fascination. His orders were specific. Save enough Zephyrians to serve as witnesses, but let the galaxy see what happened when humanity's children were murdered. The selection process had been brutal. Scientists, diplomats, and military officers were pulled from the dying worlds, while billions of others faced their final hours. Sir, the stellar collapse is accelerating, his science officer reported. We have maybe 10 minutes before the shockwave reaches us. Stone nodded, watching Zephyrian refugee ships struggling to reach the evacuation zone, families crowded into cargo vessels never designed for passengers. Children pressed their faces against viewports, staring at the sun that was killing itself above their homeworld. Most would not survive the journey to safety. All ships maintain safe distance, Stone broadcast to his fleet. Stellar collapse imminent. On the bridge of the science vessel Prometheus, Dr. Kevin Miller watched his instruments with scientific detachment. The quantum cascade was proceeding exactly as predicted. The star's core temperature had risen beyond critical levels, its gravitational balance destroyed by exotic matter that existed outside normal physics. What had taken nature billions of years to create would be undone in minutes. Kevin, his assistant Rachel said quietly, we should move to minimum safe distance. Miller shook his head. He wanted to watch this. He needed to see justice delivered to the star that had warmed the world of child killers. The Prometheus held position dangerously, close to the dying sun, its shields straining against radiation that grew stronger by the second. The end came suddenly. Zephyr Prime's sun collapsed inward as its core could no longer support its own mass. For a moment, the star became smaller than a city, its matter compressed beyond imagination. Then it exploded outward in a supernova that would be visible from 1,000 light-years away. The shockwave hit the human fleet like a cosmic tsunami. Ships that had survived the space battle were tossed aside like toys, their hulls groaning under forces that warped space itself. The Prometheus vanished in the initial blast, Dr. Miller achieving the martyrdom he had unconsciously sought. 4 planets that had housed advanced civilizations became cosmic dust in seconds. 6 billion Zephyrians died in the nuclear fire, their cities and cultures erased from existence. The homeworld where their species had evolved became a spanning cloud of superheated gas. Centuries of art, literature, and scientific achievement were reduced to their component atoms. The few thousand Zephyrian survivors crowded into human transport ships, their minds struggling to comprehend what they had witnessed. These were the lucky ones, chosen to carry word of Earth's terrible capabilities to the galaxy. Many went insane during the journey to neutral space, their reptilian minds broken by the sight of their star, committing suicide. News of Zephyr Prime's destruction spread across known space faster than light itself. The quantum communication networks carried footage of the supernova to every inhabited world, every space station, every alien government. Within hours, the galaxy understood that humanity possessed weapons that could kill stars. The diplomatic response was immediate and unprecedented. 17 different alien civilizations sent urgent missions to Earth, their ships broadcasting peaceful intentions long before entering the solar system. The Altarian Trade Federation offered exclusive mining rights to entire star systems. The Centauri Republic proposed military alliance against mutual enemies. The Vegan Collective, which had never acknowledged human existence, sent their crown prince as an ambassador. Most shocking was the message from the Galactic Council, the ancient organization that had dismissed human membership requests for decades. Council Speaker Virath himself appeared on every human communication network, his crystalline form shimmering with respectful fear. The Council formally invites humanity to join our organization with full voting privileges and permanent security status, he announced. We deeply regret any past oversights regarding Earth's rightful place among galactic civilizations. President Maria Rodriguez stood before the United Nations Assembly, now transformed into humanity's voice to the galaxy. Representatives from every Earth nation sat alongside alien ambassadors who had arrived to ensure their species' survival. The footage of Zephyr Prime's death played on screens throughout the chamber. Humanity desires peace above all else, Rodriguez declared, her words broadcast to billions of worlds. We are farmers, builders, and explorers. But we will never again allow genocide against our people to go unanswered. Let New Haven be remembered not just as a tragedy, but as a promise. Touch our children, and we will touch your stars. Captain Amy Johnson, promoted to admiral for her role in the battle, stood on the bridge of the Retribution as her fleet patrolled the expanding nebula where Zephyr Prime once existed. The cloud of stellar debris stretched across light years, beautiful and terrible. Somewhere in that cosmic graveyard lay the atoms of Emma Thompson and 50,000 other murdered colonists. Admiral, Lieutenant Tom Phillips said, breaking the contemplative silence. Incoming transmission from Earth Command. They're asking when the fleet will return home. Johnson smiled grimly, her eyes fixed on the nebula that had once been an enemy star system. The galaxy had learned that humanity could reach across impossible distances to deliver justice. Earth's children would never again face genocide alone. Tell them we're already home, Lieutenant, she replied. Anywhere humans are threatened is our home now. The message was clear to every alien civilization watching. Humanity had transformed from ignored frontier farmers into the galaxy's newest apex predator. The name New Haven would be remembered not as a defeat, but as the moment Earth's children learned to kill stars.